Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me today. It's great to see so many of you on the call. Wishing you all a very happy new year, and I hope you had a lovely festive period. As January is typically where people speak about new beginnings and making new promises to each other, that's why we thought it would be fitting for this month's wellness webinar to be all about building habits and how we can make sustainable habits which we actually want to stick to. So just a bit about what we'll be talking about. I've got a bit of history to start with. So when the first New Year's resolution supposedly was recorded, what makes a good New Year's resolution, how long does it take to build that habit, the basis of habit building. So we've got 5 tips that you can follow to build a successful habit, and then also some ideas for some wellbeing resolutions as well. So it is thought that the ancient Babylonians were the first to make New Year's resolutions over about 4,000 years ago. So they were making promises to the gods to pay their debts and return any objects they had borrowed. And these promises could be considered as the beginnings of New Year's resolutions as we know them today. So they would record their celebrations of the new year in mid-March rather than January, as this is when their crops were planted, and it was linked to thanking the gods for a plentiful harvest. Then there was a similar practice in Rome. So once the calendar had changed and the 1st of January was then established as the beginning of the new year. So that was in 46 BC. And individuals would thank Janus. So he was the two-faced god who was believed to be symbolic at looking back at the past year and also looking into the future. So the Romans would offer sacrifices and then also make promises of good conduct for the coming year. So again, we always think about New Year's, making new resolutions. What promises are we going to make to ourselves, or new challenges are we going to begin? So interesting that it can date back as far as that. So starting at the beginning, what does make a good resolution? So we want to make sure that it's something that you want to achieve and also something that you're interested in. There's no point in saying that you want to learn a new instrument if you have no interest in music, or you want to try and read 24 books this year, but you don't really like reading. You've got to make sure that it's something you're interested in and not just based on other people's goals. So you want to also be realistic and make sure that you don't over challenge yourself as well. So hopefully throughout today's session, we'll be able to sort of work through the basis of how you can stick to your resolution. So I've just got 4 tips here about how to stick to your resolution. So the first is about being consistent. So we want to try and build it into your day. So whether that's having it the same time each day or before you do something else. So it's getting your brain used to kind of making those repeat resolutions, really. So could it be you always want to do this new task before dinner or when you take the dog? It's making time out of your day so that you will stick to it. You can write it down. So writing it down, and you can put it somewhere you can see it. Could you put it on your desk, put it on the fridge, perhaps on the mirror, so that when you brush your teeth each morning, you know that that's what you're going to try and stick to. You also could make a plan. So you could write down the different milestones that you want to tick off before achieving your final goal. So perhaps your goal is to run a 5K this year. So could your resolutions be starting to walk 5K, then slowly building it up and up? And if you have these ticks that you can do along the way, it makes it a lot more manageable, breaking it down into those smaller chunks. So having a plan of how you'll achieve your final goal is really important. Also be flexible. So if you're struggling to meet that resolution, alter it slightly. You don't need to give up entirely, but just try and make it more manageable for you to do. So if you're struggling, for example, if you wanted to try and run 5K, if you're struggling with that, then why not try and reduce it to running for half an hour or just running 3K. It's all about making sure that you're flexible with yourself and not being too hard on yourself and giving up entirely if you do struggle. It's meant to be, it can be something a bit challenging and it's good to work towards that, but we want to stay motivated. Linking to motivation is the fact that in the UK, supposedly 17% of Brits give up on their resolution within a month and only 11% last year. So we really want to make sure that that resolution that we're deciding to stick to, that we manage to do that throughout the year or maybe longer, or until we reach our goal. So you're probably thinking, well, how long will it take for me to create these new habits and make my resolution or make something that I want to do every day? How long will it take before that feels normal? So you may have heard of the 21-day theory. This is in fact false. So this has come from a plastic surgeon from the 1950s called Maxwell Maltz. And he noticed that it would take at least 21 days for his patients to get used to surgery, so either the shape of their nose or phantom limbs. And this is why the 21-day theory was created. People really wanted this to be true and so adopted it as the time needed to build a new habit, because 21 days is less than a month. 3 weeks, it seems quite an achievable amount of time. So if whatever we want to habit to create only takes 21 days, it seems a lot more appealing. However, this isn't true. So there have been lots of studies looking at how long it takes for people to stick to their habit, and some have found that it takes an average of 66 days. So this is just over 2 months, but it can take anywhere between 2 months and 8 months to form a habit. And of course, everyone is different. You might find it a lot easier to pick up a new habit than your colleague or your friends. So just be mindful of that. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's about the changes that we can put in place to make sure that we stick to those habits. So on that, make sure that there's no need to wait for a new month or a new week. You're very capable of starting today and making sure that that habit is something that you can stick to. It's also worth noting that a habit is not always an ongoing solution, sorry, it's not a destination. So it's something that we want to change or add into our lifestyle and our make that habit something permanent. So what about building your habit? So this has been broken down into 5 different sections. So you want to start small and then increase your habit in small amounts. And as you're building up, it's okay to break those habits into smaller chunks. Try and avoid missing 2 days in a row, and also be patient. So what I've done is I've got a slide on each of these which we can talk through. So starting small, try and make it something that you can't say no to, and make it easy enough that you don't need to be motivated to complete it. So you don't need that willpower. Again, linked back to the beginning where I said about learning an instrument. If you have no interest in music, you want to make small little habits. So could it be slowly increasing your step count? Or as I've got on the slide, trying to read for 30 minutes a day. Why not try and start with 10 minutes and slowly increase? Again, with push-ups, if you wanted to try and do 60 push-ups a day, you could start with 5 push-ups and slowly increase. So making the numbers small and manageable to begin with mean you're more likely to want to increase them and stick to those habits. And also you don't need that motivation. So it's something that just becomes second nature, and you think, okay, I'm going to read for 10 minutes now, and then in a few months you'll increase it up to 30 minutes. And you may even be reading for an hour by the end of the year. So then when we talk about increasing in small amounts, there is the 1% improvement theory. So this came from Sir David Brailsford. He was head of British cycling in 2002. And he was saying that essentially if his team broke down every single element of competing on the bike and improved each little element by 1%, they would significantly achieve an aggregated performance improvement. So you can see from the graph on the screen, the red line is a 1% improvement and the blue line is a 1% decline. So you can see just doing 1% better each day for a year, you can really see the results increase. And this can also be applied to your individual goals. So don't think, oh, 1% is such a small amount, it's not going to make a difference. But if you're doing 1% every day, it's likely to have a big improvement. And again, it makes it a lot easier and more manageable. Another way to make things more manageable is to break them down into smaller chunks. So this will help you to maintain your momentum, also helps to reduce the feelings of being overwhelmed. And you want to make sure that you're choosing manageable and realistic chunks as well. So on the screen, I've got if you wanted to be able to do 60 push-ups a day, could you break this into 6 chunks of 10 push-ups throughout the day, or perhaps 4 sets of 15 push-ups, or maybe 2 sets of 30 push-ups? So just breaking it down in smaller chunks makes it a lot easier to complete. However, you want to be realistic. So if you're wanting to read for 30 minutes a day, there's no point in breaking that down into reading for 2 minutes each time, because it's unlikely with reading that you'll then get stuck into your book. So make sure that they're realistic chunks based on the activity that you're doing. But it could be applied to most habits that you want to do. So same going back to running 5K, could you be running 1K or 2K, and kind of breaking those chunks down, building up to the 5 kilometers in total. And also, with it being smaller chunks, it ends up being something that's so small that you can't say no to. So we really want to build that habit and kind of make sure that the thing that we're trying to do becomes second nature to us. So then just a bit about avoiding missing 2 days in a row. So obviously everyone makes mistakes, but you don't need to be all or nothing. So try to get back on track quickly. Perhaps you miss a day because of work commitments or you are feeling ill. The idea of not missing 2 days in a row comes from you leading to struggling to get back into it and struggling to kind of bring the habit back into your daily routine, and also that feeling of failure and wanting to quit. So if you've missed a day, it really doesn't matter. Just try not to miss 2 in a row, because we want to keep that momentum up. This quote is by Samuel Beckett, who is an Irish-born writer. There have been lots of different versions of this quote, but I thought this one really resonated with this topic. So, ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail better. So just reiterating there that it doesn't matter if you do make a mistake or miss a day. It's just get back onto that bandwagon and keep going. And again, you don't need to be perfect. It's just making sure that you are consistent, and it's in being consistent that we help to build those habits. So then the last one is all about being patient. So making those realistic goals that you can achieve and also work up to patiently. So again, going back to the 1% improvement, this may feel very slow, but going slower than you think can help to increase those habits, and also make sure you don't bite off more than you can chew as well. You'll feel a lot better for it, and it will help to keep you motivated rather than it feeling really difficult and you wanting to stop. Because there's nothing worse than setting yourself a challenge or wanting to achieve a goal and just feeling like it's too big and you won't be able to achieve it. So going in smaller amounts, you've got to walk before you can run, is really important there. And just remember that all of this progress takes time. So starting a new habit or a new challenge can feel a bit daunting at time. You're not going to be a marathon runner overnight, but putting in the work and the little steps to kind of build up to that is what's important. So patience is a good one to remember there, and don't be harsh on yourself. If you are struggling and you feel like, oh, I should be moving up to the next step, linking back to 5K, there are lots of different apps you can use. I know Couch to 5K is one, and it sort of starts you with walking and then bringing in bits of running. And it sort of does it in stages. I think it's 3 or 4 a week. And if you feel like you're not ready to move on to the next stage, that's fine. You can repeat a week, and you can apply that to your goals as well. So just something to remember there, all about being patient. So those were the 5 sort of steps to go through. And then I've just got some ideas for some good wellbeing resolutions as well. These are just some ideas if you've come into this presentation thinking that you want to challenge yourself this year, but you're not entirely sure how to do that or where to start. Obviously, in the nutrition and wellbeing team, so I'm going to give you some resolutions that link to that. So firstly, what about trying to increase the number of steps you do? So perhaps bringing in a walk into your day. So, could you be going for a walk before work? A lot of us, if we work from home, we sort of just get up and maybe walk to our desk. We don't have that routine and that commute, as it were. So, could you go out for a 10-minute walk, be out in nature in the day, and then build up those steps so that perhaps you end up walking for half an hour in the morning or in the evening. Another one that we can find is that we spend a lot of time sitting at our desk. So could you stand up or walk away from your desk perhaps every hour? I know this isn't possible, but where time and your schedule allows, could you go for a walk around the block? Or if you're in the office, just do a walk around the floor. Um, just good to get us standing up and not sitting down for lots of hours in the day. Next one, of course, being a nutritionist, I can't sit here and talk to you about habits without mentioning fruit and vegetables. So trying to eat those 5 fruits and vegetables a day, really important. All the nutrients and the vitamins and minerals that we get. Um, could you Again, making it a habit, could you say to yourself that every day after lunch you're going to have a piece of fruit? Or you could make it more exciting and think, oh, could I try a new vegetable from the supermarket this week, or one that you've not used before or you don't often cook with? Finding new recipes to work with as well, all about making it enjoyable. Another is getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. I think a lot of us underestimate the importance of sleep, but as we do spend about a third of our time asleep, and it's really important for the restorative function, storing all our memories, helping our muscles to repair and restore. Trying to make sure we get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night is really important. Learning a language is another one. So I personally use the app Duolingo, which I find really helpful. You can do 5 minutes, you could do half an hour. But again, it's just one of those brain teasers that kind of gets your brain thinking. And it's a good skill to be able to learn, quite different from your day-to-day job as well. Another one is mindfulness. So in the new year, we can all find things really chaotic, but bringing in some mindfulness or yoga, relaxation, just making time for ourselves. It can be really busy when we go back to work in January after a couple of weeks off. So, could you build in, say, 5 minutes of mindfulness or meditation each day, building up? Some people find it useful to do it in the morning when they first wake up, or perhaps you'd like to do it last thing before you go to bed. Some other resolutions that I thought I would include things like trying to save each month, perhaps not wasting food or purchasing clothes unnecessarily. Although they may not seem like habits, they're still linked to making New Year's resolutions and new challenges. So it's, what things do you think that you could change, or set yourself a goal to do? Thank you so much for all of you joining today. It's great to see so many of you on the call, and hopefully you will join next month and going forward. So, yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.